So I've pre-flashed this Sonoff Mini with TAS motor. I prefer to use the hardware method. I've not had a lot of success with the software method, and it involves soldering some wires onto these points here. You need a fairly steady hand, and I found using solid core wire, so it's just stuff you get out of a Cat 5 cable, for example, makes life that much easier because the wire retains some rigidity and you're not worried about the ends of the wires splaying out when you solder them on. If you're not familiar with this particular method, then these are the connections you need to make. As I say, it does require quite a steady hand, but it is possible. And as you'll see, you can see they're already pre-tinned, and that's worthwhile doing as we move on to the other points as well. Flowing a little bit of solder on will make connecting those wires a little bit easier, and I found cleaning it with a fiberglass brush, put a little bit of flux on there, makes that solder take a little bit better too. So those are the points you need for flashing. What we're going to need for the RF receiver are a couple of extra points, GPIO 0 and the 5-volt line. So all we're going to use is 3 points of contact: 5-volt power supply, the ground, obviously to make the receiver work, and then we're going to switch the ground, which is what the receiver does, onto GPIO 0, which is the same as pressing the little button on the other side of the Sonoff Mini. So you don't want to watch me soldering these wires on, so what we'll do is skip ahead. So again, we're going to put the 5-volt line here, GPIO 0 here, and the ground wire here. What I suggest you do is that you solder your wires onto the PCB first, and of course this side of the PCB faces into the case. And then what I also did to make things a little bit tidier, a little bit easier, was to drill holes in the case. Now if you solder the wires onto the PCB first, you can pass them through the holes, seat the PCB and close the case up, and then solder onto your RF receiver. I actually did it the other way around, and one of the reasons I'm not showing you my soldering technique is it's awful, and that's why I've got this excessively long wire, because I soldered them onto here first, and then I needed them to be long because I'm trying to fight the case and the PCB. So put them on the PCB first, drill your holes out through the case, seat everything in, click it all together, and then solder onto your RF receiver. It's also worthwhile mentioning it's worth putting a little dab of hot glue on this wire on your RF receiver, else you're going to lose it. I don't think there's enough room to fit the RF receiver inside the Sonoff case, so I fastened mine on the outside with a little bit of double-sided tape. And if you look carefully, you can see why I'm not showing you my soldering technique, which is pretty awful. So I actually did tidy that up after this photograph was taken. And that's it, so let's have a look at it in operation. Okay, so now we've got a Sonoff Mini with an RF receiver wired into it. So now it works off the interface, wire interface. Work off its normal switching contacts, which are just here. And now it also works. Remote wired for wireless remote. So a Sonoff Mini RF.